Hi everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make a really fast and fun note card. Now this uses, these are a box of note cards, and I'll show you. They come in this little box. I'm pretty sure they still come in this little box. It does not come like this though. The box is flat, so you might get it and think, well, I thought there was a box. So you put the box together. It does have a lid. This would be great for two things. Number one, if you really needed to bang out a bunch of cards quickly, it would be great. Or if you wanted to give someone a gift, you could wrap this up with some ribbon. You can even put a little paper on top or something. It'll be a nice way to give someone a really easy gift. So these are a little bit smaller of a note card. This is the craft version. There also is a, I believe a vanilla version, but there's definitely a white version of these cards. And it does come with enough matching envelopes for each card. So this is what the envelope looks like. It's just a little bit smaller than normal. And then this is the card. Now, the nice part about this is because it is such a light base, you don't really have to add anything to the inside, but you can add a little bit of strip of white if you wanted to. And the other thing we're going to finish today, which I didn't do on this one, is we're going to put a little bit of a decorative piece of designer series paper on the envelope just to make it look a little bit fancier. So this is a very simple card. And one thing I want to tell you is you can do these in different combinations. So you can play around. You don't necessarily have to use the combination that I used. This one is another one that I tried. This was using Garden Green, Old Olive, which is a little bit darker than you think it's going to be sometimes. It kind of depends, I guess, on how freshly you've inked it. And then the underneath portion is Shaded Spruce, which you can see it's definitely very muted. So the one thing about this stamp set, though, it can look a little bit tricky because you're like, why are these not the stems? These are actually the parts of the leaves up here. Okay, so if you stamp the base first, so this would kind of be like the inside, and then you stamp the outside, and then you stamp the middle, it makes it a little bit simpler. So it kind of just depends on what you want to do, but this is a really simple one-layer card. I just stamped the Hey Friend at the bottom in black ink. You could use tons of different sentiments for this depending on what it was you wanted to do. And I'm going to show you how to do this. If you happen to still have a Stamparatus, or if you have a Misty, a stamp positioning tool, it does make it much simpler. You don't have to have one though. You can also use, I believe these are the the E blocks, because it does fit on here perfectly as well. But one tip I want to give you is when you stamp with these, you want to try to let your stamp, so if we would put our stamp face down on this, this is that waffle flower craft stamp that I've told you about. So this is what the cover looks like when it's a grid. But what you'll do is you'll put your stamp down and kind of let it sit, and then just sit your stamp on top of it, oops, and pick it up. It will stay to the actual shape of the stamp. Okay, so again, this is a little confusing because this is actually the top. So if you begin with the, and I'll show you which one. I'm going to grab my Stamparatus here. If you begin with that, it does make it just a little bit easier for you, okay? And I've tried, I apologize, I've tried to block out the bright lights there. So I'm sorry if I'm not doing a great job. I'm doing the best that I can, though. All right, so this one here, which actually has a top and a bottom, this is actually the body of the stamp. So you see you have the stem, which comes down here, these two pieces, and then that little upper piece. That's kind of like back side of that leaf, so it can be just a little bit confusing, but this is how this stamp lays. So it's just like that. So sometimes if you look at it that way, and the nice part is if you get an assembly line going with this, you could definitely knock out a lot of stamps or a lot of cards. The other cool thing about this that you could do this in the style, and I'm trying to remember of, I believe they're Crotons. No, not Crotons. Oh, I have so many of these in my yard, and now I cannot think of the name of them. But anyway, they are a tropical flower, which I do plant every year because I think they're beautiful. But sometimes they'll come in pinks and greens and whites and greens and greens and greens. But the nice part is you could definitely change this up to kind of just vary the card a little bit, which will make it really nice as well. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to grab a piece here. We have a piece of white cardstock, and this measures 3 by 4. And then we have a piece of basic black that measures 3 1/8 by 4 1/8. So it's a really, really tiny margin, but I think it kind of gives it such a nice framing when you lay it on there that it really just gives just a little something to distinguish it from the back of the card or the craft card base, which is really pretty. So I'm going to set this on the side for a minute. And I did grab myself an extra plate. So if you happen to have an extra set of plates, it would probably make it a little bit easier for you. So we are going to need the foam insert, or if you have a MISTI and you have a foam insert, you're going to want to use that because we are stamping onto with a photopolymer stamp, I should say, which makes it a little bit that it needs that extra cushion. Okay, so I'm going to grab just a clean grid piece here. All right, and put this in. Okay, so what you're going to want to do now, if you're a person that picks where you like to stamp your stuff, that's up to you. I am going to put mine more on here because this is flat and back here isn't. So I'm going to try to work so y'all can see me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put mine up in the corner. And then, like I said, we're going to begin with the piece that has the bottom and the top. So this is the stem. The stem continues through here. And then this is the back side of that one leaf. So you're going to just kind of arrange it right there in the front. Again, you can leave a little spot down here, but you're going to stamp in black, so it doesn't really matter too much what it looks like. So we're going to close the lid. And this is the part that's nice because once you've done this, if you do have a stamp positioning tool, once you've done this, you don't have to worry about it. All you got to remember is stick your cardstock up into the corner, or if you're using a different one, stick it into the lower corner, okay? So we're going to lift this up. I'm going to bring this down. And they also sell this for the MISTI. Actually, the waffle flower mat does fit in the MISTI. So if you do have a MISTI and that's something you think you want to do, that might be a good idea. So the three colors we have today are Garden Green, Lemon Lime Twist, and Soft Seafoam, which I know is very difficult. The Soft Seafoam is going to be that little fill-in color here, okay? Our Garden Green is going to be our outline color. I'm just going to set that there for now. And then finally, the Lemon Lime Twist is going to be the inside color. So I'm going to just take my pad, put this here for now, and I'm going to just ink up my stamp. And also, here's the other time. If you want to do this and you're not sure, do you want it dark, do you want it light, you can take this off and see what you think it'll look like. And then if you like that lighter or if you like it darker, that's where you can go from there, okay? I'm going to just ink this up just once more, though, so you can see what it looks like. I'm going to slide that in, and I'm going to close it, and then just press over the whole thing. The nice part is if you do have any sort of a stamp positioning tool, you know that you can just open it up and re-ink it, versus if you're using a block. You really do have to try a little bit harder to kind of line it up. So it just depends on what you want to do. So I have a little teeny bit of a splotch right here, but it's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my second. Words are hard here. What am I saying? My second plate. That's it, Rachel. Plate. And I'm actually going to stamp the outline next. So this is going to go with the Garden Green. So what I'm going to do is, remember now we have this. This is where it looks weird because you're like, why does this not line up? This is actually the top of your leaf. So what you're going to do is we're having this in the corner. And we're just doing our best. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. To kind of see where you want it. And once you get it lined up once, you're good. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this plate off of here because we're not going to use that one any longer. And I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to close this, pick this one up. Okay, same thing again. If there's any doubt, now is the time. So let's ink it and we'll see what we think it looks like, because we can stamp it right here. Doesn't have to be too dark. And then the last color is actually going to fill in. So if you're worried about, it doesn't really quite look like. So I think that looks good because it's bordering the flower or the plant leaf on all sides. The only thing is we need to make sure we get, when we get in there, we press a little bit harder. So once again, I'm going to just slide this in. Okay. Close this up and make that sure that's in the corner. And then just press. And I am pressing pretty firmly on this. And actually, I do have a that clear stamp down here and my glass mat. So should I be pressing on that? I don't really know. But you know me, I'm always doing stuff that's living on the edge. And that lined up beautifully. That is really, really nice. Okay, so now we just have our very last image. And this, again, remember, it's not facing this way, because nothing matches. So these are facing to the top. We're going to just set this right on top as best we can. And then I'm going to grab my final plate. Now, with the Stamparatus, the nice part about this, if you still happen to have this, you could just take your stamp and flip it around. But just for the sake of showing you, if you were doing this with a MISTI, that would probably be the only thing because you can only fit so many. So what you would probably want to do is you would stamp all of your insides. So stamp all 20 insides. Maybe you varied the color, but you had them all lined up. Then after that, you would take that off, clean off your plate. Then you would stamp all of the outsides. And if you wanted to vary the color for those, you could vary the color for those. So you can flip this around if you want to, if you are using a Stamparatus, and then you could pick up the other one. But just for the sake of it, I'm going to show you how you would do it if you were using. This would kind of be, I guess, so you could use either one equally. So I have that lined up just where I want it. And then I'm going to close my plate just to pick it back up. Okay, and I'm going to lift this up, and I'm going to just show you. You can even see it stamping on the back side as well. Now, for this soft seafoam, I will tell you, you probably aren't going to be able to see it much on here. It is a very, very, very light color. It's one of those colors where sometimes I have considered stamping off, and it is usually so light that you can't see it. So it's definitely one of those full strength colors, but you can see it really does fill in. Now, the other thing that would be great about this is with using this as your color, you could really get a lot of different variances for your leaf pattern. So if you wanted to do the really, really light green, and I'm going to remember the name of it, and I'm going to put it in the video because it's going to drive me bonkers. But you could have the dark green instead. You could have that being the pink color, and then that would fill in. Then you could have the light green around it. There's definitely a lot of possibilities. So this is a really very simple, a super, super simple stamp set, because you're thinking, how much could you possibly do? But there is really quite a lot that you could vary with it. All right, so we're just closing that. We're going to just work our fingers over top. If you have trouble with this, there also are, even for MISTI or whatever the case may be, you can get either a dry eraser that will help you press on this, or there's another product, and I don't know if Stampin' Crafter Solutions still sells this, but this is like a press. The only thing is it will wear off this, so you would want to put a piece of felt on it. But if you push on this, it'll give you that extra oomph if maybe you have arthritis and you can't press very hard. But there you go. That's where it looks like. I probably missed just a little bit here, but quite honestly, that could also be the white highlight of our card. So really, you could also have this in just a slight stamp off, so you do get those little natural highlights, which was completely unintentional, but ended up working out really well. So that made me super happy. So I'm going to just take this and put all of these on the side, and then I'm going to show you, we're going to add our sentiment. So for the sentiment, I am going to peel off my cover here on my waffle flower mat. I don't really need the whole thing, but since I'm taking it off, I might as well take the whole thing off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my layer that I stamped, and I'm just trying to line it up the best I can. Okay, and then you could do Hey Friend, you could do Your Fantastic. So since I did Hey Friend already, we'll go with Your Fantastic on this one. But you could use completely any greeting whatsoever. So I'm just lining this up here because I want it just a little bit off-centered to the left, and just a little bit down to the bottom. That looks good. And I'm going to just grab a block, pick it up, ink it. This is probably the hardest part, is if you lay this block all the way down, it does really adhere to your mat. But I got to tell you, I think this mat is just fantastic. If you don't have it, Waffle Flower is the one that sells this particular one. Ooh, that was a little too goopy. Let me stamp that off. That's not going to look good. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to wipe this really quickly because I don't want this to look. Pulling on my stamp here. I don't want this to look goopy because that would not look good. Okay, let's try that again. Probably a combination of, yeah, I need to ink up this ink pad a little bit, re-ink it. And I should just get out my VersaFine. Actually, no, that's what I'm going to do, because the VersaFine inks things so much better. I actually dropped this during Christmas break, and I was so distraught that I dropped this ink pad because I love the way it inks that I just taped it back together because I had to wait for a new one to come in, so it's actually taped on the hinges there, but I love this VersaFine ink. Okay, and then we're going to just line it up. And the nice part is when you're using the matte, because you can see through it, so you can see the grid underneath, you can see exactly how to line stuff up, which I find is immensely helpful, because I am the queen. I was going to say the king. I'm the queen. I'm the joker, I should say, of lining things up incorrectly, and then they end up being all goobered up looking. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to just lift this up. I'm going to move this off for a minute. I'm going to lift this up. We're going to attach this to a piece of black cardstock. I'm going to try not to touch that because the VersaFine, that's the one thing about the VersaFine ink. It does stay wet a really long time and it will smudge. So I'm going to try my best not to mess that up. So again, this does have really tight borders. If you don't like this, you could certainly make it a 1/4 inch. But with the liquid glue, it makes it pretty easy to adjust it, which I think looks great. And then all we're going to do is just adhere this to our card base. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, one other thing I said I wanted to do, which was just to make a little decorative part on our envelope. And I have the rest of my pack here of One Horse Open Sleigh DSP, which obviously these are very wintry, but the other sides we have can be very, very neutral. So you could use that pattern, you could use the dots. Honestly, you could use the stripes because it's not really going to clash. I would say maybe I wouldn't pick anything red necessarily, but there's lots of other pieces that you could use, and maybe you might even have some pieces that are 2-inch pieces that are going to fit right on there. So I'm going to just use that one, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do. And the only thing you want to make sure is that you have a piece that's longer than your envelope. So when you look at it with your fold, just like that, okay? So I'm going to just take some liquid glue and I'm going to make sure that I get to the edge, all the way around the edge. Doesn't have to be like super, super tight, but you definitely don't want it to fall off. And then you're just going to take your little panel and you're going to line it up. And again, you want to make sure that you line it up so it's under the lip of the envelope, which again, that liquid glue makes it a little bit nicer to be able to do that. So you have it on the back. It's not like overlapping onto the front. And just give it a really firm press. If you wanted to, you could even go so far as just to get out your bone folder and just press that on there. Okay, so obviously that's not going to work. So now what we need to do is just to grab our scissors and probably need a little bit more glue, but I'm going to trim first. So then all you're going to do is just trim right around. And this is the nicest part because you're kind of helping yourself twofold. You're making a very, very simple because you have these note cards and envelopes. So that's already a quick shortcut. But also you're just adding just a little bit extra something by adding a little bit of decoration to the envelope. So we'll chuck that. That was a scrap anyway. So really, I'm going to just put just a little bit of liquid glue in there and just press to hold. So you're really getting rid of also some scraps. And if you wanted to, you could even do these with little strips of scraps, just little strip pieces that you kind of lined up. But how cute is that? So now you have your little decorated envelope, your card. And then for this one, I even did take just a little piece because, you know, we always have these little pieces when we're trimming our cards up of scraps. So what I did is I just used the little, I don't know, I say hashtag still because, you know, I'm old, the little hash or gridded area. And I just stamped it all down this white scrap with garden green, just trim it up and put it on the inside there. So really, really simple card for you to be able to create. Not a lot to it. You could make it as busy or as simple as you'd like it to be. But I think this would be a great way if you wanted to send someone some cards, maybe, you know, just to let them know that you've been thinking of them and something for them to be able to mail out. I know that I give the teachers a bundle of Christmas cards during no, of all your cards during Christmas. And this would have been a great idea because then I would have also had a little box. But, you know, I make boxes anyway, so I always have lots of stuff to pass on to people. But I hope that you found this useful. All of these products are to be found in my Stampin' Up store, so you can go to www.rachthestamper.com. There's also links below here in the YouTube description. And again, this is called the Waffle Flower. Oh, just lost the name of it. Stamp mat, that's what it's called, the Waffle Flower stamp mat. They come in different sizes. You can also get these to go into your MISTI if you have a MISTI stamping tool. You probably could also put this into your Stamparatus, but because of the size of mine, it would hang over a little bit. But they have different sizes. They have lots of stuff to choose from on there. So if that's something that you're looking for, it really does make positioning your stamp when you're stamping a sentiment onto something that you've already created makes it so much easier. I would highly recommend, if you've never heard of it or you've never tried it, definitely give it a shot. It's really not very expensive. And the other cool thing is you can even do some stuff with this where you can do mirror stamping on here as well. There's lots of other stuff that you can do. And if you'd like to get the glass mat underneath, that is currently available, but only if you join my team during Sale A Bration. So if that's something you think you're interested in, you can either pick the glass mat, which also comes with the silicone mat, and it comes with a chamois, or you can choose $30 of extra, and that runs through February 29th of 2024. So I want to thank you so very much for watching. If you haven't done anything else while you've been here, I hope you've learned something. I hope you've had a laugh and a smile. And if you have, please give me a thumbs up. I would love for you to share this video with someone else. And better yet, if you'd like to, leave me a comment. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.